Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Kadamayyam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivan Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhamvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। So Hare Krishna everyone, welcome back. So we had finished chapter 2 yesterday, Sankhya Yoga, or Bhagavad Gita, some contents of Bhagavad Gita summarized. Today we will start chapter number 3, that is Karma Yoga. So we will take a quick recap of what we did yesterday. Any volunteers, please? Sham Prasad Prabhuji, are you there? Are you there? Will you share your yesterday's class? Hare Krishna, I don't know if he's hearing or not. Archana Mataji?
Yes, Mataji, I'll do it.
Yeah, please.
So yesterday we have continued the second part of Gita content summarized, where we mostly discussed about how desires and how desires cause miseries in our lives.
Hmm.
So, and we spoke about selfless karma, and we also spoke about four ashrams of human life, like brahmacharyastam, Vrasyartyam, and sannyasashram. We also spoke about yogs, jnana yoga, karma yoga, ashtanga yoga, and bhakti yoga, and uh, we spoke that lust, anger, and greed are the three gateways to hell, and we also spoke about the how desires cause lust, and from lust comes anger, from anger comes depression, and mind will become mind will lose its intelligence, and then it leads to our downfall, and this circle keeps on repeating. uh, so how connection to supreme consciousness gives us a lot of peace, and all that, and how a person who has self realization is not influenced by anyone's actions or anyone's anger, so he'll try to understand everyone and all. so
Hmm.
so
No,
these are
no,
the,
the symptoms of a self-realized person.
yeah, self
Right?
realization.
Yeah, and Mataji, please continue. I'm sorry to interrupt.
uh, I think that's it. I hope.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much for the recap. So we had discussed about how a self-realized person behaves, what are his qualities, what are the symptoms. And if you have to take guidance from somebody, you should choose such a person who is free from anger, greed, lust. Uh, okay, so that's okay, Shamprasad Prabhuji. Sometimes it happens. So, in brief, Lord Krishna explained to Arjuna everything. He told, how a person is entangled here, what is our true nature. We are the inhabitants of the spiritual world. We are the inhabitants of the spiritual sky. But because of desiring to enjoy, separately from Lord Krishna, this material world or the Mahatattva was created. So we must know why we are here. So because there are 6 anarthas, Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Irsha, Mad, Matsar. So the only anartha which is also present, which can, enter even the Vaikuntha sky is envy, Matsar. Envy means, why is the other person having what I don't have? Or what the other person is enjoying, I should enjoy. He doesn't deserve it. That is matsar, envy, envy. So because we got envious of the Lord, everybody started, people who were rebellious, they wondered, why should we always serve? Why he should always enjoy? Why should we not enjoy? So our mind and our desires are our ticket to our destination. Please remember that. All desires are created in your mind, and the mind develops desires as per our association. So, the desire to enjoy separately from Krishna is the cause of envy. And so, this Mahatattva was created by the Lord, but definitely conditions apply. So, here the controller is not Sri Krishna, here the controller is Mata Durga, the external potency of the Lord, external energy of the Lord. And she controls her here with the 3 modes of material nature. And what are these 3 modes of material nature? The mode of ignorance, the mode of passion, the mode of goodness, the tamogun, the rajogun, and the sattvagun. So here in the material world, when we associate with these 3 modes of material nature, instead of Lord Krishna, we develop material desires. But when we again start associating with Lord Krishna and his devotees, we again start developing spiritual desires. The spiritual desires keep us in the spiritual realm, and our material desires restrict us to the material world. The peculiarity of material world is the kleshas, the miseries here, Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi, and the kleshas, Adi Bhautik, Adi Devik, and Adhyatmik. So the whole purpose of human life is to get out of that. We have understood. Now Lord Krishna is going to explain to us that gradually from animalistic life, we have to come to a regulated life, So how is that regulation performed? Through Karma Kanda, Varnashrama. Karma Kanda is that section of the Vedas where, all kinds of material desires, how to fulfill them, because we cannot get desireless in a day. So gradually, first, we have to come to regulate our material desires. and get calmer, composed, because we are always disturbed with our desires. They are not getting fulfilled, or we want to fulfill and we are working for that. We are unable to think of God. So now in chapter number 3, the Lord is going to explain to us how we can, come to link ourselves in God, get purified through karma yoga. So one's heart becomes purified with activity in knowledge. So we know that in order to purify our activities, we need the right knowledge. But everybody doesn't have the capacity to understand, this kind of Divya Gyan. Everybody cannot. So, so when we want to gain this knowledge, we must be purified enough. See, an animal, dog, cat, horse, they cannot understand knowledge, can they? They can't, because they have no control on senses. They are guided by their instincts. Whatever nature has been provided to them by God, they behave accordingly. They have no sense of discretion. But human beings, they have the intellect, and the Lord is telling here that you have to regulate your activities initially, and then gradually you will understand this knowledge. So how do we go about regulating these activities will be explained here in Karma Yoga. So from animalistic way of life to a regulated way of life. So we start with shloka number 1. Jayasasi chet Arjuna vacha Jayasasi chet karmanaste mata buddhir janardhana tat kim karmani ghore mam niyojayasi keshava. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Arjuna said, O Janardhana, O Keshava, why do you want to engage me in this ghastly warfare if you think that intelligence is better than fruitive work? So in the last chapter, the Lord said so many things to Arjuna. He talked about the soul, he briefly talked about Karma Yoga, Sankhya Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, about Sthita Prajna, about everything. So here this question clearly suggests that Arjuna was thoroughly confused. What is right? On one hand, you say that one must get rid of activities. One must, transcend to Sthita Prajna, not get affected. So what he understood was, Arjuna, that this term called, sannyas means retiring from, taking retirement from the world. This is what he had understood, because this question suggests that. Shloka number 2, my intelligence is bewildered by your equivocal instructions. Therefore, please tell me decisively which will be the most beneficial. So here he is confused. Like I told you, he is very confused. Okay, what should I do now? On says you must not, have material desires, material activity. So what he thought was, you have to just give up everything and go away. This is what he understood by the word sannyasa. Srila Prabhupada has explained the meaning of the word sannyasa. It is made of two words, sat and nyasa. So sat means God, sat, eternal truth, and nyasa means giving up. So a person who gives up everything to serve the Lord is a sannyasi. So his only business is now to serve the Lord. Since we are in a contaminated state of mind, we are still not, through with our material desires. We want to fulfill. So we are not able to engage 100% in the service of the Lord. So somebody is purified to the extent of maybe 15%, 20% of your lifetime, because the most expensive resource that we have is our time. So where are we engaging our energies? In what activities are we engaging? The God sees. And you must know that the requisite for entering the spiritual sky is annabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadi anavrutam anukulena krishnanu sheelanam bhakti ruchyate. Bhakti rasamart sindhu. Srila Rupa Goswami explains. So annabhilashita shunyam, zero material desire. This is the condition. So even if you see the Varna and ashram system, ashram, brahmacharya ashram, too many desires. Grast ashram, you have got the permission to fulfill the desires. Sannyas ashram, when after performing your duties, you are purified and lot of your desires are extinguished, you are now in the capacity to gain knowledge. Vanaprastha. You gain knowledge. You learn who we are, what is our relationship, why we are suffering. And then sannyasa, 100% you engage in the service of the Lord before your death, so that at the time of your death, you can enter the spiritual realm. Because even if one desire is there in your heart, you will have to again take a body. So there was a story I heard about, about a sage who was a sannyasi, and he had given up everything and would always be, service of God. He would only take, actually, this is not called begging, but the sannyasis, they live on madhukari. They take alms from householders. Whatever they get, they are satisfied in that. They don't take up any extra, effort to earn their livelihood. They just concentrate on service of the Lord. And this sannyasi, he would sit outside the temple and beg. And one day what happened? Somebody gave him a blanket in charity. So this person was completely, he had given up material life, everything. So he used to sleep under a tree. In fact, a sannyasi is not even, advised to sleep under one tree for 2 nights. No attachment. He has to move on. He should not get attached to anything. But now that he had this one possession, the blanket, he would, because it's very cold, in Haridwar and up higher in the mountains, it's very cold. So he would use that blanket. And one day when he was sleeping, in his sleep, he dies. No desire, he had come to sannyas. And when he died, at that time, he was thinking about the blanket, his only one possession. And the next 100 births, he had to become a silverfish, an insect which eats blanket and woolen. Why 100 births? Because that one desire to enjoy the blanket got in that body. Every birth, he could eat only about 1.5, 2 inches of the blanket, and it would die. It was not able to enjoy the complete blanket. So like that, just to fulfill that one desire, he had to take 100 births as a silverfish. And when it had completely eaten up that blanket, by that time, he forgot all about the purpose of life. So these desires are so dangerous. So that is why Srila Prabhupada cautions that giving up of desires artificially is not the solution to this problem. If you are going to artificially try to give up desires, it is not going to happen in a day. So what is the solution then? Now here this Arjuna is thoroughly confused. On one end you say, give up all activities, engage in devotion. And on one other hand you say, kill, work. What should I do? So here Bhagwan starts speaking. Sri Bhagwan uvacha lokesmin dvivida nishta pura prokta maya nagna jnana yogena sankhyanam karma yogena yoginam. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O sinless Arjuna, I have already explained that there are two classes of men who try to realize the self. Some are inclined to understand it by empirical philosophical speculation and others by devotional service. So for empirical philosophical um speculation, that is Jnana Yoga, one has to detach from the material pain and engage one's time in learning about God. But here, actually, the Lord will tell Arjuna that he is not qualified for that. Why? Here, Srila Prabhupada further explains, namely Sankhya Yoga and Karma Yoga or Buddhi Yoga. In this verse, the Lord explains the same more clearly. Sankhya Yoga or analytical study of nature and spirit and matter is the subject matter for persons who are inclined to speculate and understand things by experimental knowledge and philosophy. The other class of men work in Krishna consciousness as it is explained in the 61st verse of chapter 2. So 4, not by merely abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction, nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection. So here now the Lord is explaining that these processes, some people want to understand God through Jnana Yoga. Some people want to understand him by Karma Yoga. Some people want to understand him by Ashtanga Yoga. Some people want to understand by Bhakti Yoga. So here Arjuna is thinking that all these processes are different and they're competing with each other. And he thinks the best is to give up everything and just retire. But now the Lord explains to him how this works, the system works. Gradually from animalistic life, you come to a regulated life by following the Varnashrama Dharma and the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas. And then gradually when you are purified and you are ready to understand this knowledge, you approach a guru and you gain knowledge about what is actual knowledge is that which transforms us, any knowledge. So the knowledge which transforms our consciousness is true knowledge. If you have master's degree in so many subjects and you are very successful materially, you have earned 100 houses for yourselves, you have all the luxuries, but if you are not in control of your senses, you have failed in the purpose of human life. At the end of your life, these 100 houses, your money, everything, not even your body will go with you. What will go with you is the realization, the knowledge which you have acquired spiritually. Only that will be transferred. The rest will remain here. So that is why when you are working hard in this world on your account to fulfill your, material desires, the result is zero at the end of your life. But on the other hand, if you have, devoted time in understanding yourself and your relationship with Krishna, this realization will go with you even after your death. So this is the significance of gaining spiritual knowledge. So our heart becomes purified with activity in knowledge. The right knowledge is to increase our faith in the Lord. So any knowledge, material knowledge, be it geology, medicine, everything, They should make us understand our constitutional position. Not by merely abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction, nor by renunciation alone one can attain perfection. You need both. You need both. You need, uh, you know, uh, freedom from reaction, that is through karma yoga. How do you get that? Will be explained in this chapter. How you get rid from reactions of work. What is the process? And after you are purified by, matlab removing the reactions from work, how you must gain knowledge. And after gaining knowledge and removing the reactions, what should you do? So this is the process. So here, purification of heart takes place only by activities in knowledge. So what are these activities which are recommended for the beginners? By God himself, varnashrama dharma, following our prescribed duties as per the varna and ashram, because no one can remain, inert. The soul by nature is dynamic. It has to be engaged. The soul cannot remain idle even for a fraction of a second. If you leave your soul without any activity, it is bound to get attached to something. Either the three modes of material nature, which is the natural tendency, because just like water flows downwards always at the slope, the inclination is always to move towards sense gratification. You are left idle, you are given an opportunity, your senses will automatically get attracted to something. So one should not leave the mind idle even for a minute. You have to keep it engaged. And how we must keep it engaged, that Lord is explaining in Karma Yoga. So here the Lord says everyone is forced to act as per the modes of nature. Everybody gets a nature depending, like Srila Prabhupada explained, these three modes of material nature are like primary colors. They are like yellow, red, blue. And everybody is not purely yellow, everybody is not purely red, everybody is not purely blue. Everybody has some, as per past association, some qualities they inherit, because our consciousness, mind, intelligence, and false ego carries it forward from our previous birth. So based on that, we get a respective nature. Even as a human being, we have different natures. 4 lakh species of human beings are there. So this nature forces us to work. Even if we do not want to work, that inclination will develop a desire and we will be forced to work. So better to, work according to one's own nature than imitate somebody artificially. Everybody has a nature and one must engage in that, in work according to that respective nature. This is recommended till you get purified, till you come to the level of pure devotional service. One who refrains the senses of action but whose mind dwells on sense objects is only a pretender. 3.6. The senses are one who restrains the senses of action but whose mind dwells on sense objects certainly deludes himself and is called a pretender. Because inside his tendency, he is not able to naturally control. Even though he goes away to the forest, he shuts his eyes, he takes away all. The mind is still dwelling on sense gratification. That is useless, artificially going away. And here the Lord tells Arjuna, you are not yet even, you are not even fit to get knowledge now. Because a person, they say, if a person follows Varnashrama Dharma perfectly for 100 years, then he can come to the platform of Brahmaji also. Perfectly. Your maybe your relatives are ill-treating you. Maybe you are following Varnashrama Dharma towards the society. People are ridiculing you. In spite of that, to look at Harish Chandra Maharaj, he followed his dharma. So whatever moral codes are given, according to that, even if you do Varnashrama for 100 years, you only go up to Brahma Loka, but you still don't transcend the material sky. And after following Varnashrama Dharma perfectly, you get purified. That is called Nishkam Karma, working without any, desire for fruits. Perform your prescribed duties. Then you get purified. So on the other hand, if a sincere person tries to control the active senses by mind and begins karma yoga in Krishna consciousness without attachment, he is by far superior. So now Lord is telling him, going to the forest just out of, your mind not able to do your prescribed duties, running away from your duties won't help. In fact, please note, begins here the active senses if a sincere person tries to control the active senses by the mind and begins karma yoga, begin here with your prescribed duties, you will gradually get purified. So here the prime swartha gati or goal of self-interest is to reach Vishnu. The biggest selfish end, in fact, they say devotees are most selfish. You know why? Because they don't dare waste their time on other things. They know the actual purpose of life. They know what is Swartha Gati, where is our true good, and they engage there. Most intelligent. To reach Vishnu, the whole institution of Varna and Ashrama is designed to help us reach this goal of life. A householder can also reach this destination by regulated service in Krishna consciousness. How? Because God has prescribed Varnashrama Dharma. And the perfection of life is Samsiddhir Haritoshanam, to please the God with our activities. This is perfection. So even if we are following Varnashrama Dharma, we are trying to please the Lord. Maybe the degree is less. It's not 100%, but there is a beginning. You have begun. A householder can also reach this destination by regulated service in Krishna consciousness. For self-realization, one can live a controlled life as prescribed in the Shastras and continue carrying out his business without attachment, and in that way make progress. A sincere person who follows this method is far better situated than a false pretender who adopts show bottle spiritualism to cheat innocent public. A sincere sweeper in the street is far better than charlatan meditator who meditates only for the sake of making a living. Very strong statement by Srila Prabhupada. You have acquired a nature and you have to work according to that. You are introspecting and rating your capabilities higher than what you are and trying to take an ashram or order of life which is beyond your capacity, and while your mind is always dwelling on sense enjoyment, what is the use? It's better to gradually purify and come to the level of sannyas. Sannyas means 100% engage in Lord's service. 8. Perform your prescribed duty. For doing so is better than not working. Not working it is sinful. Tamogun, abstaining from work is like degraded condition because the soul by nature is dynamic. It has to be engaged, and people who just don't work, who are not motivated to work even for themselves, what about others? At least Shudras, they work for themselves. They desire some fruit and they work for it. Gradually from Shudra stage, you have to get selfless to the sannyas stage where you don't work for yourself at all. You work only for God. Shudras work only for themselves, for their own sense gratification. This is the criteria. The Vaishyas, they are better. They work for the community, little better. They become little more selfless. Cow protection, community welfare, all this comes under Vaishyas. And Kshatriyas are even better. They work for, protection of a country or state. They lay down their lives for the people of the country. What are they getting in return? So they are still better off. And Brahmana is Sattvagun. He gives up all, engagements of earning money. He just engages, he takes madhukari or, bhiksha, and he feels that his main duties, patan, yajan is to help everyone elevate spiritually. This is the way it is designed. But unfortunately, the caste system has been misinterpreted by our societies, whereas the Lord himself, he agreed to, give his Navada Bhakti to Shabari Mata, who was a tribal actually, lowest in caste by birth, not by quality. By quality, she was a sannyasi, she was a renunciate. And the Lord can see all that. We can't hide him. Just by taking birth in a higher family does not mean that we are a Brahmin or we are a Kshatriya. So perform your prescribed duty, for doing so is better than not working. One cannot even maintain one's own physical body without work. So here Krishna explains that ordinary work binds one to the reaction, but uh, uh, Krishna karma pays for liberation. Activities in Krishna consciousness have to be performed. At least you make a beginning. So the grastas, by leading a regulated life, though they are not fully engaged in, devotional activities, a part of their life, they take out the time as per the regulation. Many people say, oh, your Sanatan Dharma in India, there are so many festivals. Every day of the year is a tithi it has. Why? Because some way you must engage in remembering the Lord every day, not occasionally. A part of your life, maybe 15 minutes, maybe half an hour in a day, you are giving time. You have made a beginning. At least make a beginning. So we start with karma yoga like this. Okay, you have made a beginning. So there are many pseudo meditators who mispresent themselves as belonging to high parentage, the great professional men who falsely pose that they have sacrificed everything for the sake of advancement in spiritual life. Lord Krishna did not want Arjuna to become a pretender. Rather, Lord desired that Arjuna perform his prescribed duties as set forth for the Kshatriyas. Arjuna was a householder and a military general, and therefore it was better for him to remain as such and perform his religious duties as prescribed for the householder Kshatriya. Such activities gradually cleanse the heart of mundane man and free him from material contamination. So-called renunciation for the purpose of maintenance is never approved by the Lord, nor by any religious scripture. So you work. Don't give up work till you are completely detached. People, they artificially give up their, house, go, and then after some time they get disturbed. They come back and they get into more abominable activities because they are still not ready for this kind of knowledge. It's not in everybody. It takes millions of births to come to that stage of detachment. 9. Very important shloka. यज्ञार्थात् कर्मणो न्यत्र लोकोऽयं कर्म बन्धना तदर्थं कर्म कौन्तेय मुक्तसंगा समाचरा. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work causes bondage in this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction, and in this way you will always remain free from bondage. So there are two terms here. Prescribed duties, always keeping Krishna in center, you perform your prescribed duties and offer the result to the Lord and his cause. So therefore one has to work in Krishna consciousness to satisfy Krishna as per one's varna and ashrama. And while performing such activities, one is in a liberated stage. If you are not attached to what you like, what you don't like, I will do this if I like, I will not do this if I don't like. Your likes and dislikes are due to the influence of the three modes of material nature. A person in lower modes will like sinful things. He will never be attracted to, pleasing the Lord. So that is why the varnashrama prescribed duties are considered. Maybe the prescribed duties, there are so many different for brahmacharis, for grastas, there are specific duties enjoined for vanaprastha, for sannyasis, they're there. This practice will not only save one from reaction of work, but also gradually elevate one to the transcendental loving service of Lord. Gradually, when you get purified, you will come to the highest level of yoga, that is devotional service, bhakti yoga. Not in a day. 10. In the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and demigods along with the sacrifices for Vishnu, and blessed them by saying, "Be thou happy by this yajna, because its performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and achieving liberation." So we are like rebellious children who were envious of our own father, and we have come here. But like a responsible father, what did the Lord say? I will make a realm for you where, there'll be a systematic way of living. You can desire whatever you want, and you can fulfill it in a systematic way by performing of yajna, sacrifice. Sacrifice means actually, the meaning of yajna is another name for Lord Vishnu. Giving away a part of your, fruits to Lord Krishna or Vishnu. He's a yajnapati. For all yajnas, he's a yajnapati. So, okay, you cannot give me 100%. At least a part of the fruits you start giving as yajna. Then you will be happy. So the children have moved out to a rented house. And the father said, okay, please enjoy alone, go separately from me, but you will have to pay the rent. The obligations will be there of being independent. So here the Prajapati is Lord Vishnu, and he is the Lord of all living creatures, all worlds and all beauties, and the protector to everyone. The Lord created this material world to enable the conditioned souls to learn how to perform yajnas for satisfaction of Vishnu. So while you are in the material world, they can live very comfortably without anxiety. After finishing the present material body, they can enter into the kingdom of God. That is the whole program for the conditioned soul, and this is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam 2.4.20. Srila Prabhupada has quoted here. So this is the whole program. By performance of yajna, the conditioned souls gradually becomes Krishna conscious and become godly in all respects. In the age of Kali, the Sankirtana yajna. So we see that there are so many yajnas in the Vedas. The Karma Kand section deals mainly with this. Then you come to the Upasana Kand, where demigod worship is prescribed. So now here in this rented apartment, who are the petty people or agents who are taking care of the house? The demigods, Devi Devtas. They are the controllers here, and they are in charge of different departments. But taxes are collected or rent is collected for the landlord, who is Lord Vishnu. So the rent has to be given to Lord Vishnu. The agents cannot keep the rent to themselves, but definitely they are in charge. So here, in the age of Kali, the Sankirtana Yajna, chanting of the holy name is recommended. So you see, for these yajnas in the Vedas, they are very Ashwamedha Yajna. There are such huge big yajnas, which were recommended for living happily here, for begetting children, for begetting money, for all these things. But in Kali Yuga, in which we are there will be so much scarcity. Like, people will have to struggle hard even for basic necessities, that sleeping, eating, sleeping, fearing, mating. Animals also get comfortably in the jungle, but we have to struggle hard. That is the nature of Kali Yuga. Nobody will have that much spare, because they'll be so disturbed by their own desires that they'll be busy fulfilling only that, and their whatever they earn will suffice only for their desires. So where is the question of performing expensive yagnas like Ashwamedh Yagna? Meru Parvat, he got gold Arjuna from there, from far off land, he got gold. So much money is required. So the best way is Nam Karna Sankirtana Yajna. Harar Nama, Harar Nama, Harar Nama Kevalam. Kalau Nasteva, 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 Gati Anyatha. Only the holy name. Harar Nama, Harar Nama, Harar Nama Kevalam. Only way of yajna that you can perform is by chanting the holy name. This is there in our Shastra. There are Yuga Dharmas. See, in the Shastra, there are Yuga Dharmas. So what are these Yuga Dharmas? We are currently in the 28th Chaturyug, that is of this millennium. This is the 28th Kali Yuga we are in. They are repeated like seasons, they are repeated, they are repetitive. So in Satyuga, the average age of human being was 1 lakh years, because there were no sinful desires. People were very pure. So what is the Yuga Dharma prescribed in our Shastra is tapasya, austerity. So you must have heard Ravana perform penance for 20,000 years, Hiranyakashipu for 60,000 years. So, and how can you perform penance for so long? Because the age was so long. Gradually, as these material sins increased, the average age of human being was reduced by 1/10. So in Dwapar, in Treta Yuga, the average age span of human beings was 10,000 years. And the Yuga Dharma at that time was Yajna, that is sacrifice, performance of Yajna. And people used to do, like Sri Ram did Ashwamedh Yajna, the Pandavas did, they could perform Yajnas. In Treta Yuga, more sins increased, and the average lifespan came down to 1,000 years. It is said that during the Kurukshetra, Lord Krishna himself was about 100 odd years, more than that. And his entire lifespan here, his not lifespan, we must say, his avatar was only for 125 years. But people used to live like that long. So at that point of time, in Treta Yuga, the Yuga Dharma is temple worship. In Treta, it is Yajna. In Dwapar, it is temple worship, deity worship. So people made huge temples, kings constructed, And because the personal deity, people were so engrossed materially that occasionally they would visit the temple. At least that if the temples are there, they will occasionally visit. And in Kali Yuga, people will get so corrupted in mind after material desires, they will not even have to light an agarbatti to the deity in the house. They will just pop in something in the mouth here, there, maybe not take a bath, rush to the office. They will not spare even 5 minutes for God. So, in such circumstances, what do? Naam Karna Sankirtanyan. You are driving in the car, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Life will become like that. I see my children in IT profession, they sit on the laptop in the morning and they get a 15 minutes break for lunch, perhaps for tea, maybe, or some tea break they get, and then again they are there. By the time they come out, they've forgotten themselves. Where will they remember God? Like that it will be. Rush everywhere. So here, now we come to 11. The demigods, being pleased by the sacrifices, will also please you, and thus by cooperation between the men and demigods, prosperity will reign for all. So when Lord created this material world, he said, okay, this rented house I'm giving you, and these people are my agents. You cooperate with them, they will provide you electricity, they will provide you water, they will provide you all the just having the house is not enough. You need all the facilities. So please cooperate with them, perform yajna, they will take it on my behalf. Why is Yajnapati? So no matter which demigod you offer to, the offering goes to Yajnapati, Lord Vishnu. This is there in Bhagavad Gita. So performance of yajna has many side benefits, ultimately leading to liberation from material bondage. So gradually, this path of sense gratification, by regulating it, gradually, if not 100%, to some percentage, you will get closer to God and the realization of your relationship with Him. In charge of the various necessities of life, the demigods, being satisfied by the performance of yajna, will supply all the necessities to you. But he who enjoys such gifts without offering them to demigods in return is certainly a thief. Here the Lord is saying that you cooperate with them. The Mahatattva also is created by me. It belongs to me. But there are agents. But what happens? People, they get so engrossed in all these yajnas that they forget Lord. They forget that who is the actual owner of this house, and they start worshipping the agents because they are getting facilities. So here the Lord further explains that the society of thieves here, Srila Prabhupada has given the example. All the supplies of nature are supplied by the representatives of Lord. Everything, many people stop giving donations. A part of whatever is your income, you must, like if you go to astrologers, you see, now popularly there is this big thing going on about astrology and vastu and this and that without knowing the actual purpose behind it. They will give you some, usually the remedies are, to increase charity, jaake gai, go and feed the cow, feed the birds. Why? In some way you must perform charity, which people have forgotten, at least to propagating the message of God. If we don't fund temples, if we don't fund scriptures, if we don't shell out money, this knowledge will die down. And when this knowledge dies down, there will be complete disorganization in the human society, and the result will be sorrow, grief, scarcity, pandemics, natural calamities, all these will come. Wars. Why do wars take place? Dissatisfaction. Somebody is dissatisfied. They are opinionated about something, and that becomes a cause for a war. So in charge of various. So here, the aim of life is attained by performance of yajna. If we forget the purpose of human life and simply take supplies from the agents of the Lord for sense gratification and become more and more entangled in material existence, which is not the purpose of creation, certainly we become thieves, and therefore we are punished by the laws of material nature. A society of thieves can never be happy because they have no aim in life. A gross materialistic thieves have no ultimate goal of life. They are simply directed to sense gratification, nor do they have knowledge of how to perform yajnas. Okay. So here, Lord clearly tells that you have to cooperate till you are 100% pure. And when one is 100% pure, one need not perform the prescribed duties, then he can take sannyasa. So here we come to shloka number 13. The devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is offered first for sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment verily eat only sin. So what do we need to keep our body and soul together? Yesterday only there was a question about minimalism. We need food. We need air to breathe. We need sunlight. We need, maybe a tree or a house to live in. That's all. So, and people who do not have this gratitude, who do not, are grateful to these five people I explained to you earlier also, the Pancha Yagna has to be performed. What is the Pancha Yagna? We are indebted to the demigods because they are the order suppliers of the Lord. We are indebted to the rishis, the sages who have gathered so much knowledge and left for our benefit. And we are indebted to our parents who have given us this material body and given us this opportunity to utilize the human birth. We are indebted to human beings, other people who have helped us in our spiritual journey, material and spiritual both. We have to be grateful. We are indebted. So just being grateful doesn't help. You have to pay back. We are also indebted to animals, trees and plants for supplying us food, for helping us. You have to do something for them also. This is social responsibility, which is prescribed in Bhagavad Gita. And everybody must shoulder this social responsibility. If you don't shoulder this responsibility, this society, the regulated society, will again become an animalistic society. Eating, sleeping, fearing, mating. That's all. There is the question of God consciousness here. So you must take this social responsibility. So here the Lord is again explaining that the devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sin because they dovetail their activities in such a way that 100% from morning till night they are engaged in the service of Lord. How does that happen? They earn money. They earn money, they give away, they utilize that to make prasadam, which is offered to Lord. They give charity, they utilize it for more spiritual propagation, the money. They keep some for the, actually Srila Rupa Goswami had a very systematic way. He had, like, he was the prime minister of the king, Muslim king at that time. In fact, Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami were discarded from the society because they were working for a Muslim king. But when they retired, somehow they had so much money, like money filled with a huge boat, gold coins, millions of dollars they had. They gave up everything. So how they divided it? They gave away 50% of their savings for Krishna consciousness, charity, for benefit of others. And 25% they gave away to their relatives because the relatives are dependent on us. They wanted to take sannyas. They wanted to devote 100% of their life to God consciousness, and 25% they kept as emergency fund. Maybe some calamity comes. And in fact, I think uh, Sanatana Goswami, he gave bribe to the doorkeeper of the jail in which that Muslim king had put him. That emergency fund he had, he gave it to that person. He said, just let me go. You take this money. Because he understood what is the importance of human life. So the devotees, they become 100% sinless. How? Navada Bhakti. From morning till night. They start with Mangalarti, chant the holy name, you are engaged in service. They start cooking, they are cooking for God. Again, it is devotional service, no materialism. They go out to work, they earn money, they use that to make prasad for charity. Again, they are 100% engaged in God's service. They come back home, they have that prasad, again, engage in devotional service. So like that, from morning till night, the program is so designed for devotees that they are 100% engrossed. They don't have time for anything else. And then apart from that, our gurus, they give us sevas like this: go and preach, go for book distribution, go and tell others, make prasad. So we are 100% engaged. And when you are 100% engaged in God consciousness, you are as good as a sannyasi. Even though you may be on the material front, you have to dovetail your activities. So, therefore, such devotees always perform yajnas in different modes of devotional service, such as Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, the 9 Navada Bhakti. They adopt this pattern of living and they're 100% engaged in God consciousness from morning till night. And when they are giving directly rent to the landlord, where is the question of agents in between? The agents will keep quiet automatically. They are paying. Okay, we are serving you. So the Lord is happy. He says, okay, live in my rented house. Shortly, you will come back to my own grand house. So others who prepare food for self or sense gratification are not only thieves, but also the eaters of all kinds of sins. How can a person be happy? You're killing the plant. You're taking a carrot's life to eat. You are incurring sin. You're digging the soil. So many earthworms are killed. Rats are killed in plowing the field. You are incurring sin. How are you sinless? So all this sin has to be nullified by either demigod worship, worshipping the agents first, gradually to come to the platform of realizing the landlord's presence, who the landlord is, and maintaining a cordial relationship with him. 14. All living bodies subsist on food grains which are produced from rains. Rains are produced by performance of yajna. Yajna, prescribed duties. And yajna is born of prescribed duties. Very clear. You do your prescribed duties without expecting anything in return as per your varna and ashrama, and you will get all the facilities of life. So when we do our prescribed duties, we get rains. When you see there are countries where sinful activities have taken place, they become deserts. If you look back at the history of these places, lot of sinful activities have happened here. There is no rainfall. There is always famine. You don't get water, necessities of life, scorching hot. So when you do your prescribed duties as yajna, you get rainfall. And rainfall is very much required for production of grains, fruits, and vegetables, which we need, which we cannot say we want or don't want. We need them. If you have plastic, metal, everything, technology, but you don't have grains, what will happen? You will not even live. You don't have air to breathe. What will happen? You will not even live. So, from prescribed duties, rain, clouds are formed, rain comes. From the rain, grains are born, and when we eat those grains by offering them to God, happiness prevails. So it's a cycle. You perform yagna, you will get rain, you will get food, you will get facilities, you will utilize it again, if not completely, partially for serving the Lord. Even that is agreed upon the Lord. He's so merciful. So here the Supreme Lord, who is known as the Yajna Purush or the personal beneficiary of all sacrifices, is the master of all demigods, who serve him as the different limbs of the body serve the whole. Demigods like Indra, Chandra, Varuna are appointed officers who manage material affairs, and the Vedas direct sacrifices to satisfy these demigods so that they may be pleased to supply air. So this is the beginning. You have to be grateful and you have to do the needful to these five people. Panchayagna you have to perform till you are completely purified. Not till then. One must understand why are all these recommended. So food, grains or vegetables are factually eatable. The human being eats different kinds of food, grain, vegetables, fruits, etc. And the animals eat refuse of food, grains and vegetable, grass, plant, etc. Human beings who are accustomed to eating meat and flesh must also depend on the production of vegetation in order to eat the animals. In fact, even the non-vegetarians are dependent on these rains, because what does the cow eat? What does the hen eat? What does the goat eat? They eat plants. To have those animals also you need rain. So even people who are non-vegetarians. Therefore, ultimately we have to depend on the production of the field and not on production of big factories. If you are stuck in a, like I think it happened a few years ago that uh, Kedarnath, there was a cloud burst and there were rich people there and nothing was available to eat, and water was sold for a huge price. It was sold for a huge, because you need food. So this performance of yajna is recommended by the Lord for our purification, and you have to do your prescribed, like there is an example to what extent we must follow our prescribed duties. To what extent we must take it as a message of God. There is a story of Harish Chandra Maharaj. There is a story of Sati Savitri. You know, her husband, he left her when she got married only. He was living with a prostitute. But because he was not performing his dharma doesn't mean Savitri left her dharma. She was still serving her in-laws because that is what is enjoined in the Shastra. And one fine day, this man, Satyavan, he gets leprosy and the prostitute kicks him out. He's giving all his money to that prostitute. Now he has no other place to go. He comes back to his wife and he says, I've got leprosy and I am like very sick and I have been kicked out. She says, no problem, Swami. It's my responsibility to serve you. She serves him to her best ability, to the extent that slowly the Satyavan, because of his sinful activities, his limbs have disappeared. His fingers are gone. His legs are eaten away. Only the middle portion and face is left. Limbs are gone, all the four limbs. And he does realize that my end is near. And he says, Savitri, I have this desire. Shall I tell you? I'm feeling bad. He says, Swami, please tell me what is your desire. You should be in a calm state even when you go. He's not thinking about his death, but I will do my best. He says, I still have the desire to see that prostitute once because I'm attached to her. So, what she does? She says, okay, Swami, I will do it. She takes him in a straw basket, a big straw basket, and she puts him in the basket and she carries it on her head. She carries it on her head and she's walking towards that prostitute's house. And in the way, there is some sage, he's performing bad tapasya. He's hanging upside down on a tree with his legs up and head down, and the basket just touches him, and he gets up, angry he becomes, reaction, which is not the sign of a self-realized person. You must understand that this person had not attained spirituality completely even now. And out of anger, he curses. He sees Satyavan in the basket. And he curses Satyavan that you have disturbed my penance, and you will not see tomorrow's rising sun. He says this. And Savitri hears this. And then she says, who is this, who has cursed my husband? How dare you curse my husband? It is my responsibility, my prescribed duty to serve him, and I will see to him that he lives. And I now curse that tomorrow's sun will not rise. And the sun doesn't rise. That is the power of a person who is devoted in his prescribed duties. The Brahmaji, sun god, moon god, Yamaraj, everybody is panicking. Oh my God, she has stopped the sun from rising. Now what will happen to the entire creation? She sits with her husband in her lap, very firm in her duty, without any desire for fruits for her own betterment. And here come all the demigods line up in front of her, pleading her to let the sun rise. This is the power one gets with purification. This is the strength, spiritual strength one gets by following one's prescribed duties as prescribed by God. And then when they all promise her, no, we will revive your husband, we will give him a beautiful body and long life, please let the sun rise. Because such devotees who are dedicated to the purpose of Lord, they understand that whatever miseries are coming in our life are meant for our purification. God has designed it so. So why should I lament? Let me give my best. Leave the rest. And then Satyavan gets a young, beautiful body again by the mercy of the demigod. Yamaraj, Indra, Chandra, everybody comes. And then she still performs her duty to the best of her ability. So this is the power of prescribed duties. Regulated activities are prescribed in the Vedas, and the Vedas are directly manifested from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Consequently, the all-pervading transcendence is eternally situated in act of service, sacrifice. Yajnartha karma. So prescribed duties are so important. And whenever the system breaks, the entire country is finished. But the Vedic directions are so made that one can satisfy one's perverted desires, then return to Godhead. Having finished his so-called enjoyment, it is a chance for the conditioned souls to attain liberation. Therefore, the conditioned souls must strive to follow the process of yajna by becoming Krishna conscious. Even those who have not followed the Vedic injunctions may adopt principles of Krishna consciousness that will take place of performance of Vedic yajna. So one can also directly take to Krishna consciousness, or you can come gradually through karma yoga, nishkam karma first, working without fruits, offering them to the Lord, later to Gyan, and then to Buddhi yoga. My dear Arjuna, one who does not follow in human life the cycle of sacrifice thus established by the Vedas certainly leads a life full of sin. So when you don't offer your services and your thanksgiving, your gratitude, a part of your fruit to these agents of God or to God, actually you're offering it to God through agents. They live sinfully. So Those who are engaged in sense gratification require purification by the above mentioned cycle of yajna performances. There are different kind of activities. Those who are not Krishna conscious are certainly engaged in sensory consciousness. If you adopt to the Navada Bhakti or the Bhakti Yoga process directly, you are taking an elevator. Then you don't need to, follow these. Of course, you have to follow the prescribed duties that will come in the further shlokas. But you can also directly come to that level of serving the Lord. And then you don't need to serve as representatives. But for one who takes pleasure in the self, whose human life is one of self-realization and who is satisfied in the self only, fully satiated, for him there is no duty. This is such a strong statement. The Lord says, please understand that only people who are contaminated with sense gratification, they need to follow the prescribed. But just like you needed a ladder to climb up a mountain, that is your destination. You have come up the ladder, then you don't need the ladder anymore. You can just kick it off. You have arrived at your destination. So if a person has come to that sthita prajna state where nothing disturbs him, he doesn't get angry, the symptoms we had discussed in chapter 2, he does not need to, he is completely satisfied in serving the Lord alone. He does not want anything else. At this stage, your prescribed duties can be given up. But is Arjuna at that stage? Full of desire. He's saying, what will I enjoy in the kingdom when my relatives are dead? He's not even ready to serve the Lord through this prescribed duties, Varnashrama. He wants to change his Varna. I don't want to be a Kshatriya. I would rather be a sannyasi, but I don't want to do what you want to do. This is a declaration. So by such clearing of consciousness, one becomes fully confident of his eternal position in relationship with the Supreme. His duty thus becomes self-illuminated by the grace of Lord, and therefore he no longer has any obligations to Vedic injunction. Suppose you go back to your father's house, you patch up with him. You fought and you came here in this rented house. You again go apologize to your father. Father, I was so foolish to have left you. The father forgives him and he lets him come to his own house. So do you still need the rented house? Do you still want to interact with the agents? No need. So people who directly engage in service of the Lord, they have realized their factual position here itself, and they are no longer influenced by the effects of the demigod. Even they say, Yamaraj cannot touch the devotees. That is the strength you get by devotional service. There is a story of Ajamila and Srimad Bhagavatam, but I think we are short of time. We have to finish the class. A self-realized man has no purpose to fulfill in discharge of his prescribed duty, nor he has any reason to perform such work, nor has he any need to depend on any other living entity. So there have been many examples in the past where people, even though they are in the material world, they have become self-realized, but they still perform their duties, not because they need them, but to set a good example for the younger generation. Because if they don't, they behave irresponsibly, what example will it set? Therefore, without being attached to the fruit of activities, one should act as a matter of duty. For by working without attachment, one attains the Supreme. Without attachment, perform your duty. What I will get, what I will not get, what I like, what I don't like. It should not come in the way of performing one's duty in Lord's plan. Kings such as Janaka attained perfection solely by performance of prescribed duties. Therefore, just for the sake of educating the people in general, you should perform your work. Never in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord has said, give up work, run away to forest, don't do anything. Never. Perform your work without attachment. That is the way. Gradually from animalistic life come to a regulated life, perform karma yoga. When you are sufficiently purified, you will understand your relationship with God. And even those who are self-realized, they don't give up. Look at Lord Krishna. He is Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he also did his prescribed duties towards his Guru. When he used to come to Yudhishthir Maharaj, he used to pay his obeisances to him because he was the elder brother. He never said, I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I don't need to pay respect to Yudhishthira. He did it. Why? Because they have to set an example in the society. Look at Ambarish Maharaj, self-realized. Sudarshan Chakra came to protect him. But he never left his etiquette, his duties towards the kingdom. He did that, but mind always engaged in God. He was doing everything for God. The intent had changed. In self-realized people, the intent of their working, with what intention they are working. So, although one who is situated in Krishna consciousness may not have any interest in the world, he still works to teach the public how to live and how to act. Experienced persons in Krishna consciousness can act in such a way that others will follow. And this is explained in the following verse. But some people misunderstand this also. Like see Janak Maharaj, there are so many examples. Parikshit Maharaj, when time came, they left their kingdom without attachment. They left. I think the Prachetas, there is a story about 7 sons. They're doing performing penance under the water, under the sea. And their father, he has crossed the Vanaprastha stage, age-wise he's aging and the sons have not come back. So somebody tells them, gives them a message that, the Prachetas are arriving tomorrow. And today his Vanaprastha has started. He doesn't wait. He said, there is no need to see them. The purpose of my life is finished. He leaves home. That is detachment. When time comes, you must have no disturbance mind in taking up the mission of God. So these kings, they set up an example. Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow. And whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. So this is the norm. We hero worship popular, powerful people. This is the nature of the world. So when powerful people, influential people, they set example, other people follow. And if you have, exemplary people like Duryodhana in the society, the entire society gets corrupted. He is derobing his bhabi, let me also do. What example have you set? They corrupt the society. So that is why the people who are in responsible position must behave responsibly, set example. O son of Patha, there is no work prescribed for me within all the 3 planetary systems, nor am I in want of anything, nor do I have any need to obtain. So many people think, and yet I am engaged in prescribed duties. Second example, Janak Maharaj, first example. Second example is Krishna Bhagwan himself. The Lord is beyond the modes of material nature. The material modes of material nature, they force us to take birth and take up a material body by force. In Garud Puran, it is mentioned, that a soul is forced in a dog's body. They say, no, I don't want a dog, but the bank balance says, no, you have to go. But Krishna Bhagwan cannot be forced like that by the material mode. He comes here at his own will. He departs at his own will. He is beyond the modes of material nature, which people try to consider Lord Krishna as a common man because they have a limited mind. They perceive everything from their point of view. For God, there are different, no rules. He does not possess a bodily form like that of an ordinary man entity. There is no difference between his body and his soul. He is absolute. All his senses are transcendental. Any one of his senses can perform the action of any other sense. Swara Upanishad. So if you want to know what is God, you must read this Upanishad. Upanishad also gives us an insight into the qualities of God. What are his qualities and what are our qualities? Where are we? What is our position and what is his position? To be able to, measure God with your own intellect is not possible. He is much, much, much bigger. That he proves by showing his Virat Swarup. Just to give an idea to Arjuna, ki how big am I? How small are you? That's all. 23. For if I ever fail to engage in carefully performing my prescribed duties, O Partha, certainly all men would follow my path. So one must set example. If I did not perform prescribed duty, all these worlds will be put to ruination. I would be the cause of creating unwanted population, and I would thereby destroy the peace of the living. So today what is happening on our media? Sense gun. What is that ad I see? Something like getting free, independent. Being independent does not mean being irresponsible. Where is it written? And people don't understand, without regulation, there can be no responsibility. There has to be regulation. So Varna Sankara is unwanted population which disturbs the peace of the general society. Answer to Arjuna's question in chapter 1. He said, unwanted population will come when Varnashrama system is not followed, not by running away from war, not by, so unwanted population will come when you don't follow your prescribed duties. Irresponsible population will come. Here is the answer to that. Do your prescribed. You are not even regulating your life to follow the prescribed duties. What are you talking about? Sannyasa. Do you know what is sannyasa? That is what Lord is telling him. The Lord is the father of all living entities, and if all living entities are misguided, indirectly the responsibility goes to Lord. So even when he takes an avatar, he behaves according to the norms of Varna and Ashram, so that to set example. 25. As the ignorant perform their duties with attachment to result, the learned may similarly act, but without attachment, for the sake of leading people on the right path. So you must perform your duty, but without attachment, so as not to disturb the minds of ignorant men attached to fruitive results of prescribed duties. A learned person should not induce them to stop work. Rather, by working in the spirit of devotion, he should engage them in all sorts of activities. 2.6. So now somebody is used to having alcohol, and you go and tell him, stop drinking, it is sinful, the Lord will punish you. Will he listen? He won't. His conditioning is so strong. So one must not disturb such people abruptly. One must try to engage them in Lord's service, and slowly they will develop taste. Srila Prabhupada, he went to US, there were so many drug addicts there. He never said, you're dirty, you eat meat. Nothing like that. In fact, in some places, he shared the room and the fridge with a person who used to put beef in the fridge, and Prabhupada used to put prasad. How tolerant he was. Sometimes they vomited in front of him. They hit him. But he was never hated anybody. He still accepted. So the spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself to be the doer of activities that in actuality are carried out by the three modes of material nature. Now here comes very important shloka. Prakrite kriyamanani gune karmani sarvasha ahankara vimoodatma karta hammiti manyate. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by the three modes of material nature. So why does one undertake some activity? Because he is in association with a particular mode of material nature. He is either in ignorance, passion, or goodness. Rajogun, Sattvagun, Tamogun. When he is influenced by these moods, he develops likes and dislikes. And as per his likes and dislikes, his activities are dovetailed. So directly we see that the person is engaging in some activity, but it is the mode of nature which is forcing him to do that work. A person is influenced by Tamogun. For example, Ravana's brother, what was his name? I forgot the name of Ravan's brother. What is his name? One is Vibhishan. The other, he's always sleeping. I forgot his name. Can somebody remind me?
Kumbhakarna.
Kumbhakarna. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So Kumbhakarna is influenced by Tamogun. His brother says, go and do penance to Brahmaji. And when he is doing the penance, the mode of ignorance takes over him. And what he desires? Let me eat nicely, let me sleep nicely. The mode of nature forces us into some activity. Vinashakale viprita buddhi. Like that. So all the activities are conducted by these three modes of material nature. So that is why Srila Prabhupada always said, try to remain in the mode of goodness. Otherwise, you will be forced to act in a certain way. Associate with people who are in Sattva Gun. Eat the food that is in Sattva Gun. That way your activities will remain pure. Sattva means pure. The person in material consciousness is convinced by the false ego that he is the doer of everything. We think we are doing. I am taking decision. Nothing. Your likes, dislikes, they are all controlled by the modes of nature. They force you to act like that. So that is why only choice we can make is which mode of material nature we should associate with. That choice is ours. This is the place where our activities will be dovetailed. Your association, what you see, what you hear, what you eat, what you experience, what you smell, this is the choice. Here, the way to regulate your activity starts. One who is in knowledge of the absolute truth, O mighty arm, does not engage himself in the sense and sense gratification, knowing well the difference between work in devotion and work for fruitive result. So a person who is in knowledge, he knows the difference. What is karam? What is akaram? What is vikaram? Akaram means reactionless activities for God. Karma means fruitive activities for sense gratification. And vikaram means sinful activities against the scriptures. Bewildered by the modes of material nature, the ignorant fully engage themselves in material activities and become attached. But the wise do not unsettle them. We must not unsettle anybody. We must understand his history, that his association has made this person like this. And you must try to help him. But do not disturb them by stopping their activities abruptly. It won't happen. In fact, Mahashim Prabhuji, our Shiksha Guru, he told us one, that people artificially try to, he gave the example of a milk boiling on the stove. The milk is boiling and you are holding a saucepan in both your hands, hot one. So you have to leave this saucepan. This saucepan is material life and the milk pot is sattva gun. It is spiritual life. So if somebody is telling you, oh, put down this halwa, you like halwa very much and the milk is boiling there, what you will do? You will just hold the milk pot first and automatically the saucepan will be released. So first hold on to devotional principles, and automatically the lower things will go. Don't disturb anybody abruptly by saying, leave this, leave that. No, there's no need. Just engage in devotional service, become attached to, you will develop a distaste yourself in some time. That is what happened in my life. So bewildered by the modes of material nature, the ignorant fully engage themselves in material life. So engage themselves in material activities and become attached, but the wise do not unsettle them, although these duties are inferior due to performance, lack of knowledge. They are inferior activities, but we must not disturb them because they will take their time. We must try to give them a higher taste by engaging them in spiritual activities. Therefore, O Arjuna, surrendering all your works unto me with full knowledge of me, without desire for profit, with no claims to proprietorship, and free from lethargy, fight. Now he answers his question. Shall I give up my work, or shall I work and shall I become renunciate? Beginning of the chapter. So here, those person who execute their duties according to my injunctions and who follow this teaching faithfully without envy become free from bondage of fruitive reaction. So here by Nishkam Karma Yoga, you free from sinful reactions. But there is no guarantee that you are not going to sin again. You have become free. You have come to the stage of nullifying your sins. But nevertheless, you are not completely purified. But those who out of envy disregard these teachings and do not follow them regularly are to be considered bereft of knowledge, befooled and ruined in their endeavors for perfection. So perfection means different things to different people based on their association with the material modes. For an alcoholic, alcoholism is the best. For a meat eater, meat eating is the best because the mode is there. The mode has to change and it changes only by association. But those who are out of envy disregard these teachings. So this is done. There are principles to regulate attachment and aversion pertaining to the senses and their objects. One should not come under the control of such attachment and aversion because they are stumbling blocks on the path of self-realization. These attachment, aversion, likes, dislikes, they're all because of our association with the material mode. They should never come in the way of your duty. I like, I don't like. I'll not do this, I will do that. No, whatever is said, please do it and you will get purified. It is far better to discharge one's prescribed duties, even though faultily, than another's duties perfectly. Destruction in the course of performing one's own duties better than engaging in another's duties, for to follow another's path is dangerous. You are in Tamogun and you are trying to imitate somebody in Sattvagun. You have not even come to the level of knowledge. What will happen? You are 10th pass, you are attempting an IIT exam. Will you pass? You will fail miserably. Maybe you will not be even allowed a hall ticket. So better to stick to one's own spiritual position as per the Varna Ashrama and not be in a hurry to imitate the higher ashrams. Better that you do your duty well than trying to imitate others. So he's a Kshatriya and he has to act accordingly. Arjuna said now, O descendant of Vrishni, by what is one impelled to sinful acts, even unwillingly, as if engaged by force? Now Arjuna is asking, yeah, I know all this prescribed duties, you're telling me very good, but still I'm not like, something is forcing me from inside. So what is that? The Supreme Personality key memory verse, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Kamesha Krodesha Rajo Guna Samudbhava Mahasano Mahapapma Vidyenam Hivayanam. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "It is the lust only, Arjuna, which is born of contact with the material mode of passion and later transformed into wrath, and which is the all-devouring sinful enemy of time." See, in the spiritual world, our relationship with Krishna is that of love. Love means you do everything for the happiness of the person you love. But when we come in contact with Rajoguna, not Sattva-guna, Rajoguna, this love is transformed into lust, lust of enjoying ourselves. This is lust. And when this comes, this transformation comes, that impels us to, do sinful things. Lust, the greatest enemy. And this lust is born out of the modes of material nature. So here the Supreme Personality of Godhead expanded himself into many for his ever increasing spiritual bliss. And the living entities are part and parcels of the spiritual bliss. They also have a partial independence, but by misuse of their independence, when the service attitude is transformed into the propensity for sense enjoyment, they come under the sway of lust. So, what has to be cultivated in our lifetime? We have to develop, even in our children, the service attitude. It starts at home, serving your parents, serving the deities, serving the guests. It starts there, it begins there. Therefore, lust and wrath, when they are employed in Krishna consciousness, become our friends instead of enemies. But lust can also be employed, engaged in the service of Lord. You want to become very rich, earn a lot of money, and a lot of portion you give away to Krishna, then your lust is transformed into love. So this process has to be reversed. From love, we have fallen down to lust, and from lust, we have to get back to love, service attitude. As fire is, so there are different degrees of this lust, that is explained. As fire is covered by smoke, as mirror is covered by dust, or as an embryo is covered by the womb, the living entity is similarly covered by different degrees of lust. So these different degrees of lust is there based on our interaction with modes of material nature. So the example given is fire is covered by smoke, Sattva gun, people in Sattva gun. The smoke, you see, you just fan it and it goes away very fast. And you can see the fire. So people who are in Sattva gun, their degree of lust is less. Then comes as a mirror is covered by dust, Rajogun. Little thicker layer of dust. If you fan, it will not go away. Maybe you have to wipe with a cloth a little harder. Then it will go away. So how much effort we have to put in, that is explained. Or the embryo is covered by womb. Very difficult. Can you remove the embryo from the womb so easily? It's packed inside, neck to neck, no air, nothing to breathe. So people who are very attached to sense gratification, it is difficult. More effort is needed. Thus, a wise living entity's pure consciousness becomes covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust. So this lust is something like a rust on iron. The thicker the layer, the less is attraction towards the magnet. So we are supposed to be naturally attracted to Lord's service. But because of this degrees of lust, this attraction becomes less. Sometimes it is absent. Because the layer of rust is so thick that you're not able to experience any pleasure in serving the Lord. Advancement of material civilization on the basis of sense gratification means increasing the duration of material existence of living entity. Today's society is based on sense gratification. Maza, you have to have pleasure. More you enjoy, more you may have. Now you may have like 1,000 births left. More you enjoy, 10,000. More you enjoy, 1 lakh. More you enjoy, millions of births. Thicker the layer of lust will get. Sense gratification is like pouring petrol in fire. The more you enjoy, more desires will develop. More desires, more births, more suffering, more the layer of lust. 40. The senses, the mind, and intelligence are the sitting places of this lust. Them, lust covers the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him. So, these three senses, mind, intelligence, and false ego, are the sitting places of lust. They bewilder us into believing that only when you get this kingdom, Dhritarashtra, you will be happy. But that is not the truth. They bewilder us. Therefore, O Arjuna, best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin by regulating the senses and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. So, in the beginning in itself, how do we regulate this lust? By regulating our senses, by regulating our activities through, this is the beginning. The working senses are superior to the dull matter. Mind is higher than the senses. Intelligence is still higher than the mind, and the soul is even higher than the intelligence. This hierarchy I have explained to you in the last class, and this is how it works. The interaction that we see grossly through our material senses is only at the level of sense objects and senses. Higher than that is the mind, which we cannot see. Higher than the mind is the intelligence, which we cannot see. Higher than the intelligence is the soul. So when we purify the soul by giving it the food of Krishna's name, automatically everything downward gets purified. Your intelligence, your mind, your senses, your attraction towards sense objects, everything is taken care of. So he's telling him the way, Arjuna, how do you devour this lust? What is the process? He's telling him. In Katha Upanishad, there is a similar passage in which one said that the objects of sense gratification are superior to the senses. The mind is superior to the sense objects. If therefore the mind is directly engaged in the service of the Lord constantly, then there is no chance that the senses will become engaged in other ways. Strengthen the mind by use of intelligence. Strengthen them. See, you have so many vratas in our Shastra. What is austerity has to be performed to strengthen your mind. The mind is so strong, it will carry you away. So what are these austerities? Some fasting is recommended. Basically, austerity means to keep your senses away from the sense objects willingly. They are naturally attracted to sense objects. So when we practice this slowly, we will regulate our senses. Thus, knowing oneself to be transcendental to the material senses, mind and intelligence, O mighty and Arjuna, one should steady the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence, Krishna consciousness, and thus by spiritual strength conquer this insatiable enemy known as the lust. So, we must engage in Krishna consciousness. Automatically, other things will be taken care of. Increase your engagement towards God, godly people, and automatically this lust will be taken care of. So with this we come to the end of this chapter. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purport to the third chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita in matter of Karma Yoga, or the discharge of one's prescribed duty in Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any questions or comments? We have some time left. Hare Krishna. Any realizations you would want to share? Any questions about prescribed duties, Karma Yoga? Everything clear? No questions today? So I think there are no questions asked today. Everything is crystal clear. So we will end the session here. All of you, I mean, as a person, I would want to tell you that if not completely, please start chanting the Lord's name at least. For Kali Yuga, it is recommended. And if you chant, the process will begin. So thank you all so much for attending the session.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Please tell me.
Actually, I wanted to ask that in which stage, like the Varna stage, in which stage we are, how will we come to know?
Maataji, can I see you? Who is this? I didn't know. Yeah, Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you so much. So now, Mataji, age-wise, the lifespan is divided into 4. The first 1/4 section, like suppose you are in Satyuga and your life is 1 lakh years. The first 25,000 years are the Brahmacharya ashram. They are devoted to learning, about the material world and spiritual thing also. More to actually prepare yourself for the next ashram. So, okay, I'll come to the next question. So what happens, the next 1/4, that is 25,000 years to say 50,000 years, is Grastashram, where this is the gradual path of regulated sense gratification. In other ashramas, sex life is not allowed. So here, by slowly, taking responsibility, you should fulfill your desires, but at the same time, take responsibility of the other ashrams. Brahmacharis, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. You have to earn for them also. Then only your actually and your grasta life will become sinless. Otherwise, if you don't take responsibility of children, their education, taking care of the old people in your family, though they may be very, very difficult, even then, you are supposed to take care of them. And sannyasis, especially the renunciates who are totally engaged in preaching purposes, it was our responsibility to take care of them. So that is why donation to the temple, etc. All this is important. Otherwise, the propagation, who will take care of the sannyasis who have given up all activities in their life for service of Lord? So now, if you are in Grasthashrama, your major responsibility is to take care of the other 3 ashrams, the children, the Vanaprastha, and the sannyasi. And your Varna, the quality of yourself, you can know by your tastes, by your likes and dislikes. Are you more inclined towards sense gratification? Just your sense gratification, Shudra mentality. You are into community welfare work, you have the Vaishya mentality. You want to protect the country, protection, police, soldiers, Kshatriya mentality. You have that inclination to protect others. You have the inclination to serve God, sannyasa mentality. What kind of mentality quality you have? What is your inclination in work? So you should introspect and engage accordingly. Don't try to jump your quality abruptly and take sannyasa. It's not possible. So I hope that answers your question, Mataji.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much. In the chat, I think we have a question. Ma'am, I recently started chanting some pathas, but as I begin, it seems like burden and feeling comes like when it will get over. So what shall I do? So that is because Mataji, your purification is not complete. If you get purified, only then you will relish. Ata Shri Krishna Namadi na bhave grayam indrai sevan mukhe hi jivvado. Is further is sevan mukhe hi jivvado. Further it is, but I'll explain the meaning to you. Ata Shri Krishna Namadi. Na bhave grayam indre. Your senses do not enjoy the holy name of God with polluted senses. With polluted senses, you cannot relish the name of God. It's not possible. So how are these senses proven? Sevan muke hi jivva do. There are two things recommended. One is tasting Krishna Prasad. Don't eat anything which is not offered. When you start taking Krishna Prasad and you start chanting his holy name, gradually you will develop taste. To the extent that now if I don't do my mala, I feel so incomplete, And I don't sit idle the whole day. I handle a business, I help my husband, I do my ghar ka kaam. Everything I do. Go out. But I finish these things first. And gradually you will develop a taste and you will start relishing God's name. When you practice a regulated life, do your prescribed duty, you will become purified. You have Krishna Prasad, you chant holy names. So what is the remedy for, liking the holy name is to chant holy name. Gradually, you will start relishing it. As you get purified, you will relish it. So I hope that answers your question, Mataji. Ma'am, I feel sometimes that I shall offer food to poor, but I some or other way procrastinate. You must offer not food to everyone. You must offer everyone Krishna Prasad. Because ordinary food will not purify you or others. What is why prasadam is served in so many temples? What is the significance? Because prasad, when you are having prasad, you are engaging all your five senses. You are seeing the prasad, you are smelling the prasad, you are tasting the prasad, you are touching the prasad. So all the five senses are engaged. They are purified just by having prasad. Chanting the holy name. If someone is following the path of truth, is it called false ego? How to differentiate perception and truth? Prabhuji, there is only one truth in the world. Krishna. The meaning of the word truth is that which does not change. Everything in this world changes. That is why when you are going to a crematorium, you say Ram Naam Satya Hai. So that everybody gets the realization that everything in this world except Ram is temporary. What is the meaning of the word truth? That which does not change. Clearly you will understand what is the truth and what is your perception. Anything which is changing from time to time is not truth. Truth never changes. That which does not change. That is only Lord Sri Krishna. I hope that answers Prabhuji. Family life about truth and perception. Prabhuji, your perception is always influenced by the three modes of material nature. That is why whenever we have this confusion, whether it is truth or perception, we must consult three authorities: Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. Primarily the Shastra. What does the Shastra says about my performing my duties? And the Guru who is teaching you must be in alignment with the Shastra, the Sadhu also. So you must consult all the three. So the path which Lord Krishna has prescribed in Karma Yoga about family life, about discharging one's duty, in that your personal ego, your self-opinionated, being self-opinionated, the only positive in this world and negative, like today there is this philosophy of positive thinking going on, but people don't know what is positive. So positive thinking is that activity which takes you closer to God, to the actual truth. We know the truth partially sometimes. Till we experience it completely, our purification has to go on. And that is possible only through your prescribed duties. If the ego comes in the form of running away or revolting against the plan of God, then one must curb it down, like the lust, your own opinion, which is tainted by the three modes of material nature. One must engage them in the service of Lord. Chanting the holy name is the best remedy. Gradually, you will start seeing all the problems around you very small compared to the actual problem of this life. Any more questions? Thank you, Prabhuji, for your question. Any more questions? So I think no more questions. So tomorrow we'll start chapter 4. And one thing I wanted to know from all of you is that 9th and 10th of May, I will be taking off as I have other engagements. I will send you the message. Please confirm if okay. So thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Ancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhayavacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Ananta koti vaishnav vrindu jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.